Hey everybody, welcome back to Sip and Talk. I'm Joe, and as always, I've got Sunny here with me.
Today, we're diving headfirst into something that's, well, it's everywhere, isn't it? Cosmetic surgery.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a really interesting bunch of sources here that look at it from all sorts of angles. Why people do it, what goes right, what can go, well, wrong.
Yeah, and the cultural side, too. Like, South Korea comes up a lot.
Definitely. And the ethics, the future.
Yeah.
Our mission today is really to unpack all these complexities, go beyond just the surface level stuff about looks.
Exactly. Because it really isn't just about wanting to look different. We're trying to understand the layers, right? What's really driving it? What are the hidden downsides?
And maybe what our fascination with changing our appearance says about, well, us. Society.
Yeah, it's way deeper than just, wanting a new nose or something.
Okay, so let's start with the why. Why do people actually choose this? Our sources talk about the obvious one first. Just liking how you look more, feeling better about yourself.
And that makes sense, right? I mean, if something's been bothering you, maybe making you self-conscious for years, fixing it could genuinely boost your confidence.
Totally, like in social situations or even professionally, at work. We're talking things like rhinoplasty nose jobs or blepharoplasty, eyelid surgery.
Procedures that might help someone feel like their outside finally matches how they feel inside, perhaps. Yeah. And importantly, it's not always purely cosmetic in the everyday sense. The research also points to, real improvements in psychological well-being for some people.
You mean like reconstructive surgery?
Yeah, exactly. After accidents or for people born with certain conditions or deformities, that can be truly transformative.
Yeah, I can imagine. Not just appearance, but easing anxiety, improving quality of life.
Just restoring a sense of normalcy, maybe that can have a huge psychological impact.
And then there's the argument around choice, isn't there? The whole my body, my decision thing.
Right. Personal autonomy.
Especially now with surgery becoming, well, generally safer and the techniques getting so much more advanced, people feel empowered, maybe.
Absolutely. And the sources we looked at definitely lean into that idea of individual choice. Plus, we kind of have to acknowledge something else.
What's that?
Well, the reality that in certain fields, entertainment, modeling, maybe even some jobs where you're constantly meeting clients' appearance can be a factor.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Because it bumps up against potential inequalities, but it's out there. Yeah. The sources mention it.
It's a reality, unfortunately.
Well, so those are some of the, let's say, the pros or the motivations. But like anything, there are downsides, concerns. One that always makes me think is that idea of the plastic surgery face, when someone's had maybe a bit too much done.
Yeah, or maybe work that wasn't quite right for them. It can start to look unnatural, sometimes a bit stiff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stiff is a good word.
Well, what's interesting there is what the research says about, diminishing returns. Too much or poorly done procedures can actually take away from someone's natural features.
So it ends up undermining the original goal. Less confident instead of more.
Potentially, yeah. Lots of expression and exaggerated look.
Yeah.
It can happen.
And we absolutely cannot forget the actual health risks. I mean, it is surgery.
It is. And our sources are pretty clear on this. Infections, bleeding, problems with anesthesia. These are real possibilities.
Plus the dangers of going to, maybe cheaper, less reputable clinics. You hear horror stories.
Definitely. Things like filler necrosis, where it blocks blood flow and damages tissue, or issues with implants like ruptures. It's not minor stuff.
No, absolutely not.
And then there's the psychological side beyond just the physical risks.
Right, like the potential for getting sort of hooked on it.
Yeah, the sources talk about that. Maybe a kind of dependence, constantly seeking the next procedure, often driven by this deeper dissatisfaction. Maybe linked to something like body dysmorphic disorder.
Which is where someone fixates on perceived flaws others barely notice.
Exactly. And that cycle can be really fueled by, societal pressures and the media images we're constantly bombarded with.
Yes. Which brings us right to that huge point. Those pressures, the often completely unrealistic beauty standards, it really feels like so much of the drive for cosmetic surgery, especially historically anyway, for women, comes from these external expectations. Magazines, social media, it's everywhere.
Totally. And when you connect that to the bigger picture, the sources really highlight how these outside pressures can get internalized. People start feeling, inadequate if they don't fit this very specific, often unattainable mold.
So it makes you ask, How much is really a free personal choice and how much is just reacting to all that noise?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Okay, let's zoom in a bit. Our sources get into some specific areas. One is gender roles. We touched on it. Women historically facing more pressure, higher surgery rates.
Right.
But now there's this growing trend of men getting procedures too, especially in places like South Korea, China. So is that progress, like destigmatization,
right,
or just new pressure?
That's such an important point. On one hand, yeah, maybe it signals more choice for men, less stigma. But the research also makes us pause and ask, does it just mean those societal beauty expectations are expanding? Now men are feeling the heat too.
Something to think about. And what about the workplace connection? Getting a job?
Yes. The resume photos.
Right. In some cultures, like South Korea, apparently, putting a photo on your resume is standard. So
yeah,
your looks could literally affect your hiring chances.
Which raises huge ethical questions.
Totally. Does surgery then become like another cost of looking for a job? Does that make things even more unequal?
It potentially could, yeah.
Yeah.
The sources use that exact phrase, job-seeking cost.
Yeah.
It could definitely disadvantage people who can't afford procedures.
So what's the alternative? Anonymous resumes.
Some sources mention that, yeah. Photo-free applications as a way to try and tackle that specific bias.
Okay, another really sensitive area, teenagers getting plastic surgery.
Yeah. Very tricky.
Where do we draw the line? It's permanent, right? Can a teenager really grasp the long-term implications? What about parental consent?
These are critical ethical points. The research really emphasizes the vulnerability of adolescents, questioning if they can fully understand the irreversible nature of it all. Parental consent just adds another layer.
And should schools maybe be doing more? Promoting self-acceptance instead of letting the idea take hold that surgery is the fix.
That's a powerful suggestion from the sources, absolutely. Fostering self-worth, challenging those narrow beauty ideals early on.
Now thinking about the future. Technology, it's changing everything. AI, beauty filters, deep fakes, all that stuff.
Right, wild stuff.
Could that virtual perfection actually make people less likely to want physical surgery? Or will it just make us more anxious because our real selves don't match our filtered online selves?
That's a fascinating possibility the sources explore. As filters get hyper-realistic, maybe the pressure shifts. But yeah, the flip side is that gap between digital you and real you could definitely create new anxieties.
This also kind of links to identity, doesn't it? Like cultural identity.
How so?
Well, the sources mention this trend where some cosmetic surgery seems to aim for more Western features, like eyelid surgery in Asia, creating a double eyelid.
Ah, right. The potential erosion of native cultural aesthetics.
Exactly. Is that happening? Why might someone want features perceived as more European, for instance? Could it create a sort of disconnect for them culturally?
It's super complex, tied into history, global power dynamics. Sometimes that desire can reflect internalized biases, unfortunately. Yeah, perceived higher value on Western looks.
And the risk, as the sources question, is maybe a homogenization of beauty, losing unique cultural looks.
That's a definite concern raised in the material, yeah. A loss of diversity in what we consider beautiful globally.
But then, sort of pushing back against that, you have the natural look movement, right? Body positivity, #NoFilter. We're seeing a lot of that.
Is that a genuine backlash against the cosmetic surgery culture? Is it really about self-love, or is it just another trend?
That's what the research prompts us to ask. Is it a real shift in values or just a different aesthetic that's currently popular?
And could it accidentally end up making people who do choose surgery feel, I don't know, judged or stigmatized?
That's a really important point, too. These movements might unintentionally create new pressures. It's complicated.
Okay, one last really deep area here. The line between cosmetic surgery and psychological treatment.
Yes. The mental health aspect.
Could surgery sometimes be a way for people to avoid dealing with deeper stuff, like insecurities?
The sources suggest that possibility, yes. That the desire might stem from underlying issues that surgery alone just can't fix.
So should surgeons maybe have some mental health training? Or should proper psychological evaluations be standard beforehand? The need for thorough pre-op evaluations is definitely highlighted. And the sources point to cases where, unfortunately, surgery might have actually made someone more insecure in the long run.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to think about across the board. But we can't not talk specifically about South Korea.
Right. The plastic surgery superpower, as the sources call it.
Why? What's going on there that makes it such a hub?
Well, it seems to be a mix of things. Culturally, you've got the huge influence of K-dramas, K-pop, promoting these really refined, specific looks.
And just a general societal emphasis on appearance being important?
Very much so. There's even that practice mentioned, gifting eyelid surgery when someone comes of age. That shows how normalized it is.
Wow. And it's not just culture, right? There are practical reasons, too.
Absolutely. The healthcare system is advanced. They have top-notch surgical techniques, tons of clinics.
And it's relatively affordable compared to some other places.
Exactly, which makes it a massive destination for medical tourism. People fly in from all over.
Okay, stepping back again for the bigger picture. Those broader implications our sources raise. Ethically. It's that tension, isn't it?
Between what?
Between personal autonomy, your right to choose, and the concerns about altering nature, maybe, plus the potential for exploitation by this massive industry.
Yeah, it's a fundamental debate.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line on modifying our bodies, especially when there's so much money involved?
And the economics of it, is it a smart self-investment? Or does it just make inequality worse, turning beauty into another form of capital only some can afford?
The sources definitely pose that question. Could the cost create another barrier, another marker of privilege based on looks?
Culturally, too. Does it allow for more diverse beauty ideals because people choose what they want? Or does it push everyone towards a single, often westernized standard?
That push and pull between individual expression and potential homogenization is key. Does it diversify or standardize beauty globally? Hard to say for sure.
And technology. Okay, it makes things safer, better results, maybe. But there are risks, right? Misuse. Long-term effects we don't even know about yet.
Definitely. The pace of change is so fast. The sources urge caution, basically. We need to really understand the long-term impacts, not just jump on every new technique.
And finally, future generations. What message are we sending?
Yeah.
Is this prevalence of cosmetic surgery teaching kids self-confidence, freedom of choice? Or is it creating a culture that's just obsessed with looks, maybe at the expense of, like, inner development?
That might be the most profound question. What are the long-term cultural impacts on self-esteem, on values? Are we empowering young people, or are we accidentally pushing them towards superficiality?
Wow. Okay, this has been a real deep dive.
It really has.
It's so clear that cosmetic surgery isn't simple. It's deeply personal, complex, no easy answers at all.
And what seems crucial, based on everything we've read, is for anyone considering it to really, really think about why. What are the motivations? Are the expectations realistic?
And understanding all the risks involved, being fully informed.
Absolutely. Which kind of leads us to a final thought, maybe for you listening right now.
Yeah.
Is the beauty that someone might achieve through surgery, is that defined more by society standards or by their own genuine personal choice? And how do we, all of us, find that balance between maybe wanting to change something, self-improvement, and just accepting ourselves, resisting those constant outside pressures about how we should look?
That's definitely something to chew on. How do we balance self-acceptance with the desire for change? Good question.